Tonight on First at 9 this Saturday the 18th of May 2024. 15 years of peace. Sri Lanka celebrates 15 years of peace after ending a 30-year war with the LTTE. Assured the United States to stand in solidarity with Sri Lankans, reflecting on the hope for a united future. Downpours continue. Inclement weather continues. Landslide warning slapped on 4 districts. Article 17. FR petition filed against Adani's wind power plant projects in the north.
ඔබේ විශ්වාසය දෙනු සෙන්සුරයින් දැන් ළඟමැති ෆාමසියෙන් ලබාගත හැක.
From Derana, this is Derana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and welcome to Derana First at 9. I'm Aditya Dirisingha joining you live with the latest in Sri Lanka and around the world. Now in your top story tonight, inclement weather conditions continue to severely affect several parts of Sri Lanka throughout the day today. Parts of the western, Sabaragamuwa and northwestern provinces along with several other areas experienced rainy weather patterns during the past few days and also today. Taking the inclement weather patterns into consideration, the Department of Meteorology issued an advisory for heavy rainfall to several provinces and districts across Sri Lanka, also forecasting that showery weather conditions are likely to enhance in the next few days.
Heavy rains and winds persisted throughout several parts of the island today. The Allawallawai road, which was closed for traffic until 6 a.m. yesterday, was once again closed for traffic from 8 p.m. yesterday to 6 a.m. today. Authorities were again prompted to declare the road out of bounds for traffic from 8 p.m. to 6 a.m. tomorrow after mounds of earth collapsed onto the road yet again. Measures have been taken by the Road Development Authority to clear the road due to streams of mud flowing onto the road. Considering the prevailing inclement weather patterns, the Department of Meteorology advised relevant authorities to close the road for traffic at times of heavy rains, deploy officials to regulate traffic, and to set up lights at dangerous sites along the road. Taking the inclement weather patterns into consideration, the National Building Research Organisation issued early landslide warnings to several areas in the Badulla, Kandy, Kegol and Ratnapura districts.
Due to continued rainfall, cumulative rain effects, and by considering the weather forecast issued by the Department of Meteorology, the issued landslide early warning message has been updated and extended to 16 p.m. tomorrow in the following areas. With that, warning level 2 Amber alert warning was issued to Alert Divisional Secretary Division Badulla District. Warning level 1 watch yellow warning was issued to Haldumulla, Haliyala, Badulla, Aputale, and Divisional Secretary Division Badulla District, Udapalata, Gangihela Korle, Pasbaya Korle, Udunuvara, and Yatinuvara Divisional Secretary in Kandy District, Ulatkopitia, Darigala, Ruanwella, Kegol, Dehevita, Parakapola, Yatiatota, Mavanella, and Galigamoa Divisional Secretary Division Kegol District, Bulpe, Balangoda, Kirialla, Kuruvita, Ahniagoda, Ayagama, Ratnapura, Kalavana, and Alapata Divisional Secretary in Ratnapura District.
Meanwhile, the torrential rains have brought the water level of the Rajangane reservoir up to 31 feet. As such, 4 sluice gates of the reservoir were opened to allow the release of 2,100 cubic meters of water per second. Those residing in the low-lying areas in close proximity to the Angamo reservoir were urged to stay on alert as both sluice gates of the reservoir have been opened in light of the heavy rains. Around 300 acres of paddy fields in the Mahabulankulam area in Anuradhapura have been inundated as a result. Meanwhile, the Galle district also continued to experience heavy rainfall throughout the day. Meanwhile, the Met Department issued an advisory for strong winds and rough seas for naval and fishermen communities in the deep sea areas in the southeastern Arabian Sea.
We are in ending phase of monsoonal conditions due to the pre-monsoonal conditions over the country and surrounding sea areas. Showery and windy conditions are expected to enhance further during next few days. Cloudy skies can be expected over most parts of the island due to that effect. Showers or thunder showers will occur at times in western, Sabaragamuwa, central, northwestern and southern provinces and in Mana district also. Showers or thunder showers will occur at several places elsewhere of the island after 12 noon. Heavy showers above 100 mm likely at some places in western, Sabaragamuwa and northwestern provinces and in Galle, Matara, Kandy and Nuwara districts. Fairly strong winds about 30 to 40 km per hour can be expected at times in southern provinces also. General public are kindly requested to take adequate precautions to minimize damage caused by temporary localized strong winds and lightning hazards during thunder showers.
The department also issued an advisory for heavy rains for areas in the western, Sabarugama, northwestern provinces and for the Galle, Mathura, Kandy and Nuwara districts.
Crunchy goodness for hunger on the go.
ජීවිතේ හැම තැනකදීම ස්මාර්ට් වෙන්න පොලිය විතරක් ගෙවාගෙන යන්න CDB Smart Draft.
Now, 15 years ago, on a day like today, Sri Lanka's people collectively let out a sigh of relief, which was followed by unprecedented jubilation. It was for good reason. Sri Lankan security forces had brought a 3-decade-long conflict with the terrorist group LTTE to an end. Thousands of soldiers sacrificed their lives in the battle to ensure that the people of the country didn't have to fear for their lives anymore. This is a look back on that hard-fought victory over terrorism and a tribute to those who liberated the island from the clutches of terror.
15 years ago today, Sri Lankans were emancipated from the evils of terrorism, which devastated the country's peace, harmony and humanity for over 3 decades. For more than a quarter of a century, Velupille Prabhakaran, leader of the LTTE, who sought to create a separate state in Sri Lanka drenched in blood, was responsible for the deaths of thousands of innocent civilians. The LTTE's campaign of terror began on one fateful day in 1975, when the then mayor of Jaffna, Alfred Durayappa, was gunned down in cold blood while on his way to the Nallur Kovil. The seeds of the war were planted subsequently in 1983, when a deadly ambush was carried out on a Sri Lankan army patrol operating under the call sign 44 Bravo outside the town of Tirunelveli in Jaffna. The gruesome ambush brought about to the death of 1 officer and 12 soldiers. From there on, the LTT embarked upon a campaign of horror and wrote over 30 years of Sri Lankan history in blood and tears. In that dark episode of Sri Lankan history, the country bid farewell to key political figures including former President Ranasinghe Premadasa and parliamentarians including Gamini Dissanayake, Lalit Athulat Mudali, Ranjan Wijeratne and Lakshman Kadiragamar. The turning point of the war came about in 2006. Under the guidance of then President Mahinda Rajapaksa, an offensive was launched against the LTTE after the terror outfit closed off key sluice gates at the Mavillar Reservoir on the 21st of July 2006, cutting water supply to 15,000 villages in government-controlled areas. And so, the Fourth Elam War ensued. After several hard-fought battles and immeasurable sacrifices on the 18th of May 2009, LTTE leader Velupille Prabhakaran was gunned down by the Sri Lankan army, while the terrorist leader was attempting to evade capture by the 53rd Division of the Sri Lanka Army. According to the Defence Ministry, 28,708 Triforces personnel, including commissioned officers and other rankers, sacrificed their lives, while thousands were left permanently disabled in Sri Lanka's pursuit of peace. Following the victory on the battlefield, 19th of May was declared as National War Heroes Day, and since then, the island's deceased war heroes have been commemorated annually at the National War Memorial in Battaramulla. The national ceremony commemorating the country's war heroes will take place tomorrow at the National War Heroes Monument in Battaramulla.
People have forgotten the war already in 15 years. It doesn't happen in other countries. Only in our countries people have forgotten. I urge, please don't do that. There are about nearly 1,000 people still receiving treatment in rehabilitation centers in Välisara, Piliyandala, Kurunagala, Anuradhapura. Please visit them and show that we care about them. That will help them to recover fast.
It is important that today's young generation, who have not experienced the bitterness of ruthless terror and war, understand that the freedom and sovereignty you enjoy were achieved through the unimaginable sacrifices of the brave sons and the daughters of our motherland on the battlefield. These noble sacrifices and acts of dedication should never ever be forgotten, and they deserve respect and recognition from the society in every possible way.
Meanwhile, in view of the 15th anniversary of the Victory Day, the Sri Lanka Navy has promoted 3,146 senior and junior sailors of their regular and voluntary forces to their immediate senior ranks. The relevant promotions have been awarded by the Commander of the Navy, Vice Admiral Priyantha Perera, with the approval of President and Commander-in-Chief Ranil Wickremesinghe.
Now, the United States assured that it stands in solidarity with all Sri Lankans reflecting on the resilience and hope for a united future. Posting on X, the US ambassador to Sri Lanka, Julie Chung, added that the US will remain a steadfast partner to the Sri Lankan people, including the ones who continue to seek equal rights and access to opportunities. The US ambassador reaffirmed the commitment to the US to support Sri Lankans' journey towards a prosperous and an inclusive future. These remarks were made on the anniversary marking the 15 years since the end of Sri Lanka's civil war. President Ranil Wickremesinghe left for Indonesia this morning to attend the 10th World Water Forum high-level meeting in Bali. The president left for the forum following the invitation extended by Indonesian President Joko Widodo, underscoring the country's commitment to international cooperation on water-related challenges. The forum, themed Water for Shared Prosperity, will convene global leaders to address pressing issues related to water management and sustainability. Accordingly, President Wickremesinghe is also scheduled to deliver a keynote address articulating Sri Lanka's perspective on achieving equitable access to water resources for all. During the forum, the president is expected to engage in bilateral discussions, including a meeting with President Widodo to explore avenues for collaborative action in water resource management. Now in other local news, 2 private buses collided in Kegalle, injuring 26 people. The injured were promptly admitted to the Kegalle and Toranagahapitiya General Hospitals. Hospital sources said 18 patients have been admitted to the Kegalle General Hospital, of whom 2 are in serious condition. With that, let's take a look at other local news in brief. Jail excise officials arrested a 36-year-old man from Kandana involved in illegal alcohol production in Ekala. Police said that more than 500 litres of spirits were seized from the possession of the suspect, valued at 700,000 rupees. A 13-year-old school student was attacked by a group of police officers who assumed he had stolen an air rifle and a mobile phone. The student was subsequently admitted to the Kurunagala Teaching Hospital. In another case of assault perpetrated by law enforcement officials, a group of policemen attacked a former police sergeant with 17 years of service for wearing a t-shirt with the logo of the Sri Lanka Police. The police officers who committed the assault lured the former police sergeant behind the Kahula police station, where he was beaten severely, and then proceeded to place him in a holding cell within the Kahula police station. Now, the realm of politics was rife with views and speculation on the consequences of the general election preceding the parliamentary election. Executive member of the National People's Power, K.D. Lalkantha, claims that while the NPP will sweep the presidential election if it is held first, other political parties might find a way to minimize damage if the general election is held first. Now, let's take a look at some other thoughts shared across the political spectrum.
මේ රටේ රණවිරු ප්‍රජාවගේ සහන ටික නිසි ලෙස ලබා දෙන්නට මේ වසර අවසානයේ සිට කටයුතු කරන්නට අපි නායකත්වය ලබා දෙනවායි කියන එක මම මේ අවස්ථාවේ ප්‍රකාශ කරනවා.
The surveys conducted so far reveal that the NPP will win the upcoming presidential election. If the general election is held immediately afterwards, all other political parties, including the SLPP, will wither away into oblivion. So if the general election is held before the presidential election, those parties might find a way to save themselves.
The winner of the presidential election will determine the outcome of the general election.
The country requires a political change if it is to come out of the crisis. It is imperative that we have a government with the citizens' mandate. These are the last few days of this corrupt political era.
This is nothing new. In the lead up to the 1982 election, Rohana Vijayveera assured that he would secure 1.4 million votes. However, he only received 235,000 votes. Similarly, before the last presidential election, the JAP decked up the Gulf-face green to its brim with their supporters, but they only received 3% of the votes. The same thing will happen this time too.
There may be different opinions. Despite those opinions, we assure that the only person with the political vision, capability and international connections is President Ranil Wickremesinghe.
රනිල් වික්‍රමසිංහ මහත්තයා පමණයි කියලා.
They claim that they fixed the economy, but just ask them how many foreign direct investments they brought into the country. Ask them by how much they were able to increase exports. Ask them if they have a plan to reduce taxes. They have no such plans.
We have to strive forward from here on. We have already put together a plan for Sri Lanka's economic revival. Welcome back. Now in your business news, Adani Green Energy's wind energy project, which was set to commence in Mannar and Punareen, was challenged in the Supreme Court on the grounds of potential adverse environmental effects and the lack of transparency. On the 16th of May, the Wildlife and Nature Protection Society filed a fundamental rights petition at the Supreme Court. The Society's petition was filed with the aim of protecting the unique ecosystem of the Mannar Island, and it argues that the project poses a severe threat to the island's unique biodiversity and pristine landscapes. The petition further questioned the credibility of the environmental impact assessment carried out by the Sustainable Energy Authority of Sri Lanka before the project was cleared and the pricing formula finalized for the project. While Adani Green Energy's renewable energy project has earlier faced criticism for the absence of due process and its likely environmental cost, the fundamental rights petition filed by the Wildlife and Nature Protection Society marks the Adani Group's first legal challenge in the country. U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen plans to urge G7 finance officials to agree on a plan to bring forward interest earnings on frozen Russian assets to provide more money for Ukraine. The G7 is making progress towards consensus on a plan to harness $300 billion in Russian sovereign assets frozen since Moscow's February 2022 invasion of Ukraine. G7 finance ministers propose a conservative plan for leaders to adopt at the Italy summit, requiring compliance with international law for frozen Russian assets. The French Economics and Finance Ministry supports and shares the fact that more resources are needed for Ukraine and that they will work together technically at the G7 level and at the European level to determine the best option. Yellen also intends to discuss joint efforts with G7 counterparts to combat China's excess industrial capacity in strategic industries, including electric vehicles, solar products, and semiconductors. The U.S. Treasury official said that it was important for the group to speak with one voice on the issue and make clear that it is unacceptable for China's industrial policies to create such huge spillovers to the rest of the world. Now in other international business news, Boeing shareholders have approved a 2023 pay package for outgoing CEO Dave Calhoun worth nearly $33 million. The decision was approved after criticism over the company's crisis sparked by a mid-air blowout of a panel on one of its planes in January. Calhoun's compensation package included a salary of more than $1 million and stock awards worth about $30 million when granted, compared to a package of roughly more than $22 million in 2022. The board has reduced some 2024 awards for executives after the accident and overhauled the design of its pay incentives, giving product safety the primary weight in determining performance. Boeing announced Calhoun would step down by the end of the year in March. The search for his replacement is a key focus for the company as it aims to regain the trust lost in recent times. The company has praised Calhoun's leadership through the challenges such as COVID since 2020 and believes his focus on safety, quality and transparency is what Boeing needs. And now let's take a look at some corporate news in brief.
The Association of Human Resource Professionals, together with the Society of Human Resource Management, recently concluded its 6th Human Resource Think Tank for the 5th consecutive year. Themed HR Capabilities for Business Excellence, the event provided a platform for industry leaders to discuss and discover new capabilities which transform the future of the HR industry. The event, which attracted over 200 HR and business professionals, was open to the public for the first time this year, making it the largest forum organized organised by the two associations. In the meantime, the inaugural Sri Lanka Climate Summit, organised by the Ceylon Chamber of Commerce on climate action for our nation and the planet, was held recently. The event, which was co-sponsored by the NDB Bank, aimed to catalyse climate action at the boardroom level and engage stakeholders in driving policies that facilitate climate action nationally and cooperatively. The summit, which featured over 60 speakers and panelists, highlighted challenges and opportunities in agriculture, tourism, construction, mobility, energy and industry. In other corporate news, the annual general meeting of SoftLogic Holdings plc for the year 2023 was held yesterday. During the meeting, all resolutions indicated in the notice issued on the 16th of April this year were adopted by the shareholders.
Welcome back. Now, Global Ambassador for Peace, humanitarian and spiritual leader Gurudev Sri Sri Ravi Shankar began a 3-day official visit to Sri Lanka today, assuring his commitment to youth empowerment, skills training and spiritual upliftment among Sri Lankans. During his visit, Gurudev is expected to inaugurate 12 skill development centers of the Art of Living Foundation across the island. Gurudev Sri Sri Ravi Shankar's visit aims to underscore his commitment in fostering peace, prosperity and societal harmony between India and Sri Lanka.
Global Ambassador for Peace, humanitarian and spiritual leader Gurudev Sri Sri Ravi Shankar was welcomed at the Bandaranaike International Airport this afternoon by State Minister for Defence Pramita Bandara Tennakon and Governor of the Eastern Province Sendil Tondaman. Gurudev is visiting Sri Lanka on an invitation by Prime Minister Dinesh Gunawardena after 8 years. He has visited Sri Lanka previously on 5 occasions. Upon his arrival, Gurudev Sri Sri Ravi Shankar was warmly welcomed by some of his devotees. Speaking to the media, Gurudev Sri Sri Ravi Shankar expressed his enthusiasm for visiting the island.
Guruji. I've been coming to Sri Lanka many times, but now this time I've come with a big group of people, and Sri Lanka is such a beautiful place, and this is a historic place and a very emotionally connected place for people from Indian subcontinent. Just now, you know, in India, the Ram temple, which was been the dream of people 500 years, got completed, and of course I was part of the Supreme Court effort to bring a judgment for this long-standing issue, and which happened very peacefully, very amicably between all the communities. There is a lot of interest for tourism and pilgrimage for Sri Lanka, and this will be one of the first those steps we would like to bring here. We are starting several skills development centers here. Sri Lankan youths are very robust, they need skill development. Then, you know, the economy of Sri Lanka can go up. So I've come to explore many other possibilities in the field of education and skill training and employment generation and all this, along with the spiritual upliftment of people.
Upon his arrival, Gurudev called on Prime Minister Dinesh Gunawardena at the temple trees, where they engaged in discussions covering a broad spectrum of topics. During the meeting, Prime Minister Gunawardena appreciated Gurudev's efforts towards the well-being of humanity. During his visit, Gurudev is expected to address a public meeting titled Ekamutuva and also inaugurate 12 skill development centers of the Art of Living Foundation in Sri Lanka. Gurudev Sri Sri Ravi Shankar will also grace the Kumbhabhishekam event in Sita Amman Temple in Nuwara and bless the community, and in Trincomalee, he will attend community programs organized in his honor.
That's all the news we have for you tonight. Thank you. Have a great night.